April 16th, 2007. A day to be remembered in history as one of the deadliest school shootings in the United States. Seung-Hui Cho, a lone gunman, unleashed a storm of terror on Virginia Tech.
The decision was yours. Now you have blood on your hands that will never wash off.
Killing 32 people and injuring 17 before taking his own life. What led to this horrific act? Who was Seung-Hui Cho, and what dark past shaped his violent path? What were the omissions he benefited from? How did he eventually slip past the system's leakages?
For my brothers and sisters, the chief we did it for them.
This is the account of the Virginia Tech massacre and the sick mind that perpetrated it. Early life and troubled childhood. Seung-Hui Cho was born on January 18, 1984, in South Korea. His parents emigrated to the United States for better opportunities. He settled in Centerville, Virginia. Cho suffered the highest social anxiety at an early age. The kids rarely looked him straight in the eye. They would shyly try to say something and talk others into saying something, including family members. He hardly ever said anything in class for the teachers to put it on paper, usually calling him unresponsive and withdrawn. His reclusive lifestyle made him unable to get along with his fellow classmates and not able to get accustomed to the new atmosphere. His struggles were more than shyness. Cho was diagnosed with selective mutism and severe depression, and spent years in therapy and special education support. Still, he was isolated. He was bullied throughout school, often mocked for his accent, quiet nature, and unusual behavior. These experiences seemed to push him further into a world of isolation and resentment. Warning signs and troubling behavior. As Cho moved on in his high school journey and into college at Virginia Tech, his conduct became disturbingly problematic. He wrote very disturbing essays about violence and revenge, causing extreme concern among teachers and classmates. His professors were alarmed at his work, and indeed, one advised that he receive professional help. Cho also displayed odd social behavior by refusing to play with other classmates, failing to make eye contact, and mostly isolating himself in his dormitory. He would wear dark sunglasses indoors and rarely, if ever, speak to his peers.
I didn't have to do this. I could have left. I could have fled.
No major intervention was done despite these very obvious warning signs. His growing isolation, coupled with his deteriorating mental state, set the stage for what would become one of the most tragic school shootings in history. He refused to associate with classmates and would often wear dark sunglasses indoors, refusing to speak. His relationships were creepy. Roommates and friends called him mysteriously silent and volatile, a ticking time bomb, until too late.
철구 선생이라고 해요. 반가워요.
100 billion chances and ways to have avoided today, but you decided to spill my blood.
The April 16th, 2007 incident. April the 16th, 2007 was another normal day at Virginia Tech. The students were conducting their day normally without a strike that it would later end abruptly. At 7:15 a.m., Seung-Hui Cho began his first attack in West Ambler Johnston Hall by killing two students, Emily Hilscher and Ryan Clark. The seriousness of the situation had not yet dawned upon the campus. They didn't call for an immediate lockdown. About 2 hours later, at 9:40 a.m., Cho entered Norris Hall with two semi-automatic handguns, chains, and more than 400 rounds of ammunition. He walked from room to room, locking doors and shooting students and professors dead. Chaos filled the air as students tried to find a way out, hide, or barricade themselves in against the onslaught. A few tried to phone 911 desperately, while others used furniture to block the doors in the hopes that it could block the shooter from reaching them. Professors risked their lives to shelter students as some endeavored to sacrifice themselves to protect others. By the time the massacre ended just 9 minutes later, Cho had killed 30 more people, bringing the total number of victims to 32 before turning the gun on himself. The scene inside Norris Hall was gruesome and unlike anything law enforcement had ever seen before. Bodies of students and professors lay motionless in classrooms, blood pooling on the floors. Survivors still remembered the echoing of gunfire sounds,
At 174 rounds, 61 were in my classroom. It was very, very quick.
Screams by people desperately in search of some form of shelter, and finally the chilling silence. Emergency service personnel quickly headed to the place where they would find frightened students getting out from closets, others with blood-stained clothes on them, shell-shocked, unable to realize what has happened to them. An American campus overnight transformed into an instant war arena. The rest of the world froze in wonder as that evening news on America's deadly school shooting incident sent shockwaves. Families of victims looked for answers, while the nation mourned its tragedy, easily preventable if only steps had been taken. Grief and trauma gripped the Virginia Tech community, with vigils and memorials springing up in honor of the lost lives. It attracted national debates on gun control, mental health awareness, security measures in educational institutions, and many other debates and questions that continue to this day. A glimpse into his mind. The nation was left shocked. Everyone wanted to understand why it had just happened. The worst school shooting in American history. When investigators opened up Cho's manifesto, a package of videos, writings, and photos he had sent to NBC News between the two attacks, a chilling revelation lay waiting for them. In his videos, Cho ranted about wealth, privilege, and revenge. He compared himself to the Columbine shooters and referred to himself as a martyr. His disturbing words reflected a deep-seated hatred for society, one that had been festering for years.
Thanks to you, I die, like Jesus Christ, to inspire generations of the weak and the defenseless people.
You corralled me into a pen, he told her. You had 100 billion ways to stop this. Mental health failures and missed red flags. As investigations ensued, it soon became clear that many warning signals had been overlooked. Cho was already deemed, in 2005, mentally ill by a Virginia court, yet was permitted to purchase the guns that so easily flowed legally into his arms. His erratic behavior, violent writings, and psychiatric evaluations all led to a picture of a person who was quite disturbed and urgently needed help that never fully arrived. The tragedy raised urgent debates on mental health policies, gun control, and school safety. How could one so obviously unstable slip through the cracks? In the wake of the shooting, Virginia Tech and other universities across the country reorganized their mental health resources and emergency response systems. Additional legislation was implemented to include more extensive firearm background checks for the mentally ill that have documented history. Families and survivors of the victims used this tragedy to promote advocacy so their loved ones would not be lost in vain. But the marks are still here.
Things or not take any actions that I think are possible to prevent the next one.
Local town police was doing active shooter training really as a result of Columbine High School.
Survivors carry the marks. Families are left to grieve their losses, and America remains to try to deal with mass shootings and mental health issues that plague this nation. Seung-Hui Cho's case is a sad reminder of the result of undiagnosed mental health conditions and ignored warning signs. The echoes of gunfire, the chilling silence that followed, and the horror that unfolded that day would be etched into history forever. His silence was not just a personality trait, it was a cry for help that went unanswered. He was a ghost among his peers, existing but never truly seen. The massacre was not just an isolated event. It was a culmination of years of neglect, warning signs, and systemic failures. The haunting question remains: could this have been prevented if the warning signs were taken seriously? While nothing can erase the horror of April 16, 2007, we can learn from the past and strive for a future where such tragedies are prevented before they ever begin. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay informed, stay aware, and stay safe.